check.
Yeah, there you are.
All right, go.
I think I changed your word. You were helpful. Well, I think I want thoughtful. So thank you. You're welcome. I send Kim all of the things I'm working on for this. I'm like, oh, tell me.
All right, welcome everybody.
Hello.
This is sad. It's our final week together.
Thanks, David.
Well, you know, happy for. I mean, we're going to experience some good times, but it's sad. This is our last meeting. But yeah, what we're going to do today is actually hear from each one of you. We're going to hear your 2 words-ish, even if you don't feel 100%, kind of where you are with them. Your 6 or 12 words. Some combination. If you've got all, that's great. If you only have one or the other, that's fine too. But yeah, we'd just love to kind of hear from every person. And then after everyone shares, we're also going to hear from people online. And I have Mary and Matt's as well, since they can't make it. Then we'll do some deeper discussion a little bit, kind of hearing from each other more about those, like how you got there, how you feel about them, things like that. So. Everyone ready? I sense some hesitation in this general area. That's cool. You can say skip if you
Skip is an option.
skips. I'll say skip's an option, or maybe don't want to let you off completely, Jason.
I don't need to be let off completely.
Okay. Maybe give us the direction or a few words that have percolated as.
Give you like a compass point.
Yeah. Love to hear something in the range. Even if it's not complete. Welcome. We're about to go around the room and share our 2 words and or our 6 to 12 words, depending on where you are. And even if you don't feel great about either one, we're going to get like a compass, a few ideas that are close to that. So why don't we start over here? Norma, do you feel ready? All right, let's hear it. Oh, and sorry, real quick before you do. On page 51, there's a place to write down other people's 2 words. So if you were wondering, you can steal them, reflect on them, whatever you want to do with those. Okay. All right, Norma, yes.
2 words were fostering wonder.
Fostering wonder, okay.
12 words, I've got a hyphenated. It's going to count as one.
It's good.
Nurture people through providing opportunities to experience joy-filled wonder of God's creation.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Yeah, thanks for sharing. Yeah. All right, Millie.
I have seen it. I agree.
Yes, true.
I changed my mind.
After hearing Norma's, you're just...
No.
Oh, okay.
During the week,
Okay.
when I came up with my 12 words, I realized my 2 words didn't fit.
Okay.
So I'm going to change my 2 words to fostering joy.
Nice.
And my 12 words is start something small, which someone else can use to make it bigger.
Cool.
That makes sense?
It does make sense.
Then tell me.
Well, remember what we talked about, though, last week. I do think that is true. But like, I love the way that you pieced that together last week about what you consider to be small. But I think there's an opportunity to go more specific, like, and not really think about what you're doing as small. Like, what are the things that you're doing without, I guess, categorizing it as this tiny thing that others really are, making better.
Say, even if I think it's small,
Yeah.
someone else may help make it big.
Well, one of the ways to think about it is the idea of that some of what you're describing right there is a principle that actually applies broadly to everyone, right? It's true of Corinne. Corinne may do something small that actually could be significant to someone else. So the question is, what are the smalls that are true of you that are different than the smalls that would be true of Corinne? That's actually what we're trying to hone in on those 12 words. So that's what I would try and maybe hone out is what is that small? That may be the principle, an overarching principle that's good for your soul to know. That actually may be a value of yours, which is actually a separate category of things we don't do here in this course. But values are actually what the why for why you do what you do.
Yeah.
And so, but that's not the survey of our course here. So it may be something to think about.
Yeah, because it's obviously super important and super meaningful, and I affirm that, like just hearing from you. But yeah, to get at more of the call and more specific around that.
I'm kind of a big picture person.
Yeah,
I guess maybe
but the fostering joy, I mean that really is in the area of what. So kind of flesh that out into some of the specific ways.
I guess I should put the specifics
So example would be
in
like,
my 12.
right, example would be, and this is not the right word, so just go with me, but like it could be something like, hey, really just honor God and love others by meeting people, when they're down and bringing them joy, in what's true or something. Do you know what I mean? Like it would be more particular to in what ways do you foster joy? Like that's kind of what you're trying to articulate. So, all right, cool.
But yeah, thanks for sharing all of that, Ivy.
Yeah, so my 2 words are articulating relationships. Articulating has 2 definitions, and I wanted both of them. So it's clarifying and explaining, but articulating also means bringing 2 things together to form a joint. So it's bringing 2 things, like your spine articulates to your skull.
Wow.
So it allows 2 things to do something together that they can't do on their own.
Multiple meanings. I love that.
Double entendre.
So my 6 words is empowering people to establish sound foundations. And then my 12 words is building God's kingdom by developing thoughtful, connected people rooted in life-giving truth.
That's good.
Solid.
Wow.
My head just exploded.
All very, very powerful. Very good. Yep. Thanks for sharing.
Ivy, the building the kingdom thing, right? That's all of our job. So theoretically, that could even be a general dynamic, unless there's a kingdom dynamic in particular that's unique. That you're like, I think there's a unique way in which I see the kingdom. Like, you know what I mean? But that's really great.
All right, Kelly. How you feel?
My 2 words are encouraging flourishing. And I've struggled a bit with this. I don't know if this is exactly 12 words, it might be 30. Encouraging the flourishing of people's and places' inner workings through compassion, intentionality, and organization. I'm not sure if that's, this doesn't talk about the end product.
No, that's right. That's great.
Yeah.
Can you read it one more time?
Mine?
Yeah.
Encouraging flourishing of people's/places' inner workings through compassion, intentionality, and organization.
All right. I would choose, if I was you, I would choose either people or places, and whichever one seems to be truer internally to you, just because it'll flow better, and you'll be like, how I'm moving probably towards people, or I'm moving towards context. So.
It's more for people, but I also really like a common thread has been I do that in every workplace I'm in.
Yes.
So that's why.
I get that because I like.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely, I think because the idea of like even for me clarifying change, it's individually, but it's also organizationally, so it can play both. But when I think about my core, like it ultimately ends up being people. I really want to see this happen in people, and particularly. So I would lean on one or the other just for your own clarity's sake.
Okay.
Cool. Nicely done.
Yeah. Thanks, Kelly. All right, over here, Ethan or Corinne, who wants to start? Okay, yeah.
Because I hit a wall last week and I am stuck at what I got last week.
Okay.
But Mary Jones is going to help me. It's helping.
She's a help.
She's a helper.
Yes.
At her table. If we need to. Helping others see truth by restoring peace. And my 2 words are creating peace.
Okay, so
I'm sorry, what was it?
creating peace.
Creating peace.
Helping others see truth by restoring peace.
See truth by restoring peace. Yeah, it's really good.
So one of the ways to ask a question about if you're direct is, in what ways do you help people see? So you know what I mean? If you kind of take that seeing piece and be like, okay, do you help them see by explaining? Do you help them see by showing? Do you help them see by modeling? Do you know what I mean? So it's like, well, uniquely and particularly in this particular way, help them see. Or you know what I mean? So you can kind of expand that out and give it a little bit more particularity. Not because C is not good, it's just in what ways, particular to you. You know, you might be able to find a little.
It's more showing
exciting. All right, Jason, you want to?
Sure. I was kind of in the same boat. So my two words were discovering roots that came out of that word exercise week 3, I think.
Discovering roots.
My phrase, which is in 6 or 12 words, was caring for others by helping them feel and respond to a sense of belonging.
Caring for others.
I'm not happy with that. It's not like my final draft.
Yeah.
Kind of similar to you. Like, I don't know what I do specifically. I feel like that there's some relationships, particularly with our kids, that that's really just a huge focus on our minds. So that was like, I don't know. I feel like it's very targeted to a very specific part of my life rather than a generic thing.
Yeah, because that's a natural thing to be able to ask the question. Like, okay, so the guys, the women and guys that work for you, like, in what way would that show up in particular? Are there specific ways? If you have a new employee, what are some of the first things you want to offer? What do you want them to know about being on your team versus if someone else was their boss, And that would be, so maybe belonging is actually one of those things that goes all the way across. You know what I mean? It's like, hey, I want you to know you belong with us. Like, you're on your team with us. If you meet somebody new at church, or if you meet someone new, in here, someone joins your community group. It's like, what would be those pieces that show up? So,
Yeah.
that's great.
Yeah, man. Good work.
And we're going for like 70%, 75, maybe 80%. Right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Elena.
My 2 words are nurturing connection, and my 12-ish words are grounding people in truth by nurturing connection to each other, music, and nature.
Cool. Yeah, so some specific ways there. To each other, in music, and in nature, you said? Okay.
Or like nurturing connection among each other
Yeah.
to music, nature.
Cool.
Yeah, I was kind of playing around, since we're getting feedback,
Yeah.
I was playing around with like,
This is coaching. This is live coaching.
I love it, yeah. Like God's beauty, like helping people see God's beauty through music, through nature, through things like that. But I also like ultimately God's beauty brings us back to the truth of who He is. So it's kind of going back between like grounding people in truth or grounding people in God's beauty. I don't know, something like that. So I feel like I'm still kind of playing
Well, the
around
question would
with
be:
it.
is the primary way in which you seem to impact people or circumstances? Is it the grounding aspect? Is it the linkage between the beauty of God and the truth of the God and the beauty of beauty and truth? Is it? You know what I mean? So it's kind of what's your interaction between those two dynamics? Is one of the ways to think about.
Yeah.
What's that unique way in which when you show up, if you're showing someone beauty through music or outdoors, if you're walking around showing, like, what would that do?
Yeah.
How would it look like? How would it manifest? What would it smell like? Taste like?
Yeah.
So what was the third? I thought it was 3 things: music, nature.
My main thing is nurturing connection. So like the focus is connection to each other, connection with people, and then on top of that, I was realizing kind of the value to me of connection to music and nature as well. And also using those things to connect with people.
Yes. So is it primarily trying to get people connected to each other, or is it actually you being connected to them?
I feel like it's me being connected to them.
Okay, so it's a direct connection, you to them,
Yeah.
and for the purpose of
Grounding people in truth.
grounding people in truth.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. That makes more sense. Cool.
That's cool. And I like grounding, talking about nature and the ground, and it's all,
Yes.
it's good, multi-meaning.
Thanks for catching that.
Yeah, cool. All right, Ethan, what you got?
Well, I'm going to have some rework to do. This is like the digital equivalent of the dog ate my homework. Me and Lana lost one of our booklets, so I have been like taking pictures of the sections and doing them on my iPad, and I can't figure out what happened to that section. But I can share kind of where I was heading with the 2 words because I don't want to just
Yeah.
But one of the 2 words, and again, I don't think this was the one I ended up because I'm missing more of it, but was leading excellence. I feel like that's a kind of a thread through a lot of what I do at work, some of the like personal brand at work, and so I was kind of going into that arena for like how does that apply to outside of just like a work environment because it is more important than just like being an employee, but I think that's kind of the direction I was heading.
Cool.
I like that.
Awesome.
Very cool. All right. Corinne? good.
In what particular ways do you find yourself pursuing helping people? So you creating this to honor God and love others by helping them pursue truth, right? Or is it yourself pursuing truth? Or
Yeah, I feel like my conversations and my with others and with myself are constantly qualifying and clarifying
okay,
ideas in order to that truth might be known.
that should probably be written down.
I affirm that.
Do you have a pen?
I wrote some of that down.
Okay, okay, yeah, yeah. That feels solid.
Yeah. Thanks, man.
It's awesome. Not here last week.
Sure, Rachel. Yeah.
We've been
Honestly,
doing.
I'll only get one of those a week. Yeah.
Not just the dog ate my elbow.
Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah, that was the only one for
you
that
feel
one.
it? They just get a fail.
You got kids, right? Yeah, you
Only
said,
kids.
good, like.
Yeah,
No,
kid
we kinda
issues.
stand up and we do the whole exercise. Wait till you.
Oh dear. My 2 words was, this is not a word, realize this, go with me. Was nourishing knownness.
Mm.
Oh, nice.
Not a word, can't come up with one better, so it's gonna have to do for right now.
Make your own word, yeah.
I see the value in the 6 and 12, and so I've been sort of thinking about it on the fly. So, not sure this is great. Feel free to just pick it
Yes.
apart. But I was thinking with the 6 words, I wrote down nourishing hearts to foster feeling known, which is just an explanation, not really an expansion.
Well, a great thing about the word nourishing, it's a really rich word, right? I mean, it involves a sense of feeding, a sense of like providing, setting a stage for. So in what particular ways do you find yourself, preparing, setting the stage for feeding, like,
Yeah, so I wrote various versions of this 6 to 12 situation, but it's like it's often actually feeding people for the sake of hoping to also feed something inside of them,
Okay.
with further relationship that often starts around a table.
okay.
So it's both. That's why I picked nourishing, and that's why I didn't specify
Yeah,
physical
that's rich.
or other needs. I just said hearts because technically you're also, fueling your heart with
Yeah.
real food.
Love
But
it. I love it. So
thank
well.
you.
This is so you.
Yeah. That's good.
Very cool.
Yeah, good work,
Love that.
especially on the fly,
Mm-hmm.
especially missing last week.
Thank you.
Good work, Bears. And Michelle.
Okay. I think my 2 words would probably be encouraging faithfulness. And I think I do that by strengthening the faith of others by offering truth, love, compassion, encouragement, and connection.
So say that again. Yeah, your 12 words again.
Okay. So strengthening the faith of others
Mm-hmm.
by offering truth, love, compassion, encouragement, and connection.
Hmm.
It's awesome.
It's good.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well
Thanks
done,
for
guys.
sharing.
Well done.
Yeah, really good.
That's kind of, I guess that's just what I've seen
Yeah,
in my life. And it's like, all right, well, I guess that's what it would be.
sure. Yeah, yeah. Well, and two, we hear from a few others, but like Matt has, how you've, I feel like tweaked yours over the years, at least once or twice, right? So I'm actually, because he's tweaked his, I'm thinking about tweaking my own soon. So it's work in progress, and over the years you get maybe more and more specific. And
Yeah, like an example would be, turn this off. I think one example would be like, you have those multiple sets of words, is being able to take like, is there a particular way in which someone experiences love through the way in which you demonstrate faith for them and with them? Do you know what I mean? Like what's the fabric of what that looks like?
And I think that's different with each person, which is
Right.
why there are so many different ways in which it's done, because it is different for each person.
Right. So, yeah, that's great. Awesome.
And then I didn't get Matt Jones's 12 words, but his 2 words are building stability, which I think is great. Mary, we're actually currently workshopping her 2 words together on a text chain. But her 12 words are helping others by gathering them together to connect, enjoy, learn, and grow, which if you know Mary, I think that does make a ton of sense. She initially had helping others as her 2 words, and I think kind of based on what we've been talking about, like more specifically, what does that look like? So gathering connection is in the area I think that she's leaning. So, and then do we have any online people? Okay, all right. Okay, well, let's move to the questions. Kim, if you could throw those up. If we split up into, we'll just do this table and either 4 and 3 or 4 and 3. Oh yeah, guys, girls. Oh yeah, that's enough. Good call. Guys, girls, so we're going to basically take 3 minutes each and basically talk through these questions. How do your 2 words, or if it's your 6 and 12 words, kind of all together, bring together your story, your gifts, and your passions? And last week we talked about that. You were, thinking about how those things played into your 2 words or 12 words. So talk a little bit about that, and then talk about what's one way you've seen this calling play out in your life in the last couple of months. So get real specific, and maybe that can continue to help you. Oh yeah, this is the way that played out. Oh yeah, and here's actually a little bit more specific of how that played out, and kind of continue to help craft that. So 3 minutes each. We'll come together in about 12 minutes. right. We are now going to watch a video. And again, it's sad. This is our last video. Could intro most things today with our last something. So, last video together. Turn to page 52. Oh, no, right there. Right there, yeah.
Welcome to session 6 of Younique. Congratulations, you've made it. We're so excited that you have reached this stage of the journey with us, where we are going to now explore your goals. We are working through this metaphor of an arrow, in which the shaft of the arrow represents our story and God's story together in a dynamic relationship. Then we also explored our gifting, those unique talents and abilities that God gives us, which is represented by the arrow's knock, as it ties into God's power. It is our gifting that connects us to God's power. We also explored our passion, which is represented by the arrow's fletchings. It's our passion that directs our energy, helps us to live our lives with God's precision. And then in our last session, we took a look at the arrowhead, which is our calling, in which you had the opportunity to articulate your calling in 2 words. My 2 words are empowering momentum. Everywhere I go, I'm looking for the opportunity to turn hidden potential into released passion so that I and others can reach goals. And that's what we're going to do now. We're going to talk about the target. The arrow represents story, gifting, passion, and calling, and the target represents goals. And this is the big thought that I want to leave with you today. Your goal helps to focus your calling to one point of impact in order to create exponential breakthrough in your life. So we're so excited to take this journey with you, where we will help you to articulate your goals.
The city of Berlin, Germany is a city like none other. No other city has been at the center of more world events for the past 100 years than Berlin, Germany. The focus of World War I, World War II, the concentration of the Cold War, so many different events that oftentimes are out of our memory today were so significant in the past 100 years. Even though we live in a world where every other city and country dominates the headlines, for a significant period of time, Berlin, Germany was the center of everything happening. Remember, after World War II, the city of Berlin, Germany was divided in 2. The east side took its ideology and architecture from Moscow. The west side took its ideology and architecture from America. And a wall was built between the 2 sides so that neither side could meet. The focus of the Cold War, as a child of the 70s and 80s, I remember marking my life as well. I can remember having drills where we would, imagine that a nuclear bomb or something was happening, and we'd go in and we'd place our textbooks on our head and get below our desk. I'm not exactly sure what that would have done for us in the case of nuclear war, but we did it. And I remember as a kid going to bed really believing that at any moment nuclear war could happen between East and West. It looked for a season of time like the only way this conflict would be solved would be through bullets, bombs, and blood. And then something significant happened. Rocky IV came out. I actually don't think that's the way it happened in history, but you remember Rocky Balboa and that Rocky IV kind of moment that just kind of brought 2 sides together. Well, I don't think it happened that way in Rocky, but I do think underneath the surface, something began to be believed and birthed. This is what I think President Reagan picked up on when in 1988 he made a trip and made a speech that basically said this: Mr. Gorbachev, tear down that wall. And on November 9th, 1989, the wall fell without a bullet being shot, a bomb being dropped, or any blood being shed. Today, if you were to go to Berlin, Germany, you could see places where the wall was and where the wall used to stand. And in some of those places, they have created monuments or memorials to that event. And on one of those places where the wall still stands are written these words: many small people who do many small things in many small places can alter the face of the world. Many small people who do many small things in many small places can alter the face of the world. I know lots of people today who want to do big things for God. I want to do big things for God. But the secret to doing big things for God is learning to do lots of small things. In other words, the way you win the war is one battle at a time. And for David, even though Goliath was a defining battle of his life, it wasn't the only battle of his life. In fact, David's legacy was not left by just winning one battle, but by winning several battles over time. He ended up winning the war. In 1 Samuel chapter 18, we get a little sneak peek into this ongoing focus of David's life. It says it this way: whatever mission Saul sent him on, David was so successful that Saul gave him a high rank in the army. This pleased all the troops and Saul's officers as well. When the men were returning home after David had killed the Philistine, the women came out and from all the towns of Israel to meet King Saul with singing and dancing, joyful songs with timbrels and lyres. And they danced and they sang, Saul has slain his 1,000 and David his 10,000s. Saul was very angry with this refrain, and it displeased him greatly. They have credited David with tens of thousands, he thought, but with me with only thousands. What more can he get but the kingdom? And from that time on, Saul kept a close eye on David. David not only won the battle against Goliath, but the truth of 1 Samuel 18 is that David continued to win in his life. He had success upon success. Doesn't mean he never experienced defeat, but it meant the overwhelming reality of his life was not just one battle that he won one time, but a way of life that was winning battle after battle. He became so successful that his success even threatened Saul, who was stuck, paralyzed in his cowardice and fear, never really accomplishing the things that God had placed on him to accomplish. We go a little bit further in this passage and we see this ongoing success in David's life. It says that everything he did, he had great success because the Lord was with him. When Saul saw how successful he was afraid of him. But all of Israel and Judah loved David because he led them in their campaigns. David won with his life one battle at a time. Everyone wants to win the war. Everyone wants to leave a legacy. Everyone wants to do big things. But the big stuff, the war, it's one battle at a time. See, for the first 5 sessions, we helped you identify your call. We looked at your story and God's story. We looked at your gifting and your passion. We named your call, but here's the deal. Just because you've named your call is no insurance that you're going to actually live that call out with your life. I know you want to do great things, but the secret to doing great things is to do small things, one small thing at a time. And when many people do many small things in many small places, the face of the world begins to be altered. Today, we're calling you to your legacy. We're calling you to win with your life. We're calling you to live your life in such a way that other people win with their lives. When David won with his life, all of Israel began to win with its life. In fact, if you read the history of Israel, this begins the dawn of the golden era of all of Israel's history. So our question today is this: what dawn of an era might be created with the legacy of your life? And how can you win that life one battle at a time, 90 days at a time, to create the life that God has dreamed for you to live? Remember, we started this journey by saying God's been having a dream about your life from the beginning of time. We challenged you to believe that that dream was knowable and nameable. And in this session, our final session together, we're going to challenge you to create that dream 90 days at a time.
Here in session 6, we have 2 tools that will help you to name and articulate your goals. The ones that will help you to move you forward in a way that is most productive and effective towards reaching your preferred future. The first one is called the Important Urgent Matrix. And this is an exercise in which you'll have a chance to think about your daily activities and the way in which you organize your time. And then it'll give you some perspective on how you might want to prioritize and or reorganize that to be able to move forward most effectively. The second tool that your trainer will be leading you through is called the 90-day goal funnel. And in this tool, you will actually name one singular goal that you will focus on achieving over the next 90 days. It's a great exercise, and I know that this will not only be one that will bring great clarity to you, but also great satisfaction. Together, these 2 tools here in session 6 will give you singular clarity that will help you move forward towards your preferred future.
So once you've finished the goal tools, you finished the Younique Primer. We just wanted to take a moment to say thanks for being on this Younique Primer experience with us.
Yeah, we're so honored that you chose to give your time and your energy to us throughout this whole process over the last 6 sessions together.
We do also want to remind you that the primer is not the end, it's really just the beginning. In other words, we hope you sense you're just getting started on this Younique journey.
The full Younique experience will be a way to build on what you've begun, to be able to go deeper into all the aspects of your life, where you will come away with a full life plan that touches every aspect of your life today and where you are growing into in the future.
Remember, there's more than one big question to answer with your life. What is it that I'm called to do? There's who am I called to be? How am I going to do it? When am I successful and where am I headed? We want to help you answer all these questions. You can always join us at lifeyounique.com. There's lots of free resources and tools that you can use to help you answer those questions. And again, I want to invite you into the full Younique experience where we have actually created a process that from a Christian perspective helps people get clarity on this in incredible ways with their lives.
And before we meet you there, we'd love for you to share your 2 words. So go onto our website or social media channels and let us know what your 2 words are and tag Your Life Call.
So thanks again for being part of this journey. We hope it's just the beginning of the conversation with you. We can't wait to hear from you shortly.
All right. So yeah, this is a really cool part because, as they mentioned, we get to take all the things we've thought about. You've started to narrow in on your calling, the specific way that you move into the world, and we're going to get really practical. So we're going to first look, if you turn to page 53, we're going to look at this important urgent matrix. Who has seen this before? Anyone? Yeah, a few people. I just looked it up. I thought it was Stephen Covey that created it, but apparently it was Eisenhower. Stephen Covey popularized it in his book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, great book. But yeah, apparently Dwight Eisenhower created this. So this is a matrix. You'll see basically, 4 different sections. It's looking at urgent task, important task, and some things fall into high importance, low urgency, and some things fall into high urgency, low importance. So really the basic idea here is that urgent needs threaten to steal our attention from important ones. A lot of times we're more focused on what is urgent in the moment rather than taking a step back to see, okay, what's actually important? What things do I need to do to be the kind of person that I want to be? So, everyone mostly knows what is urgent and important. And we mostly focus on those things. And then for the most part, things that are not urgent or not important, for the most part, we avoid. But I think the hard part, and what we're going to try to do in this exercise, is basically try to figure out look at the stuff that's urgent and not important, and look at the stuff that's important and not urgent, we're going to try to like basically weigh those out and see what they are currently, and then also, you know, say, hey, what do you want them to be like? So on page 53, we're going to take 2 minutes, and in the first section, in this first part, you're going to look at the lower right quadrant. So it's that third, it's the number 3. So in the next 2 minutes, I want you to list out as many tasks as you can think of in the next few days that are urgent, but not necessarily super important. And this is a little tricky, but if you think about things like, you know, errands that you need to run, you know, the returns to Amazon, the dry cleaning, the, you know, groceries maybe, responding to text messages, maybe some emails, they might feel very timely, but they're not on kind of the high importance scale. Any questions about that? Feel mostly good.
Are these connected with our?
Completely separate. This is just like, think about, yeah.
Basically, think about your life and go like, what feels super urgent?
In the next few days, what's time bound, but isn't like massively important, but just like things that are kind of calling on me to do. So just write a bunch of those just in 2 minutes, and we'll do something else after that. All right. You probably got a little bit of a list going. So now we're going to take just a couple minutes, and in the upper left quadrant, I want you to write down as many important but not urgent. They're not time bound. So think about things like regular exercise, or planning a date night, or you know, planning time, specific time with your kids. Things that when you look at your life, you say, yes, these are really important to me. I really value them, but because of urgent things that get in the way, I don't always, you know, focus there. So take a couple minutes and start writing down some of those important but not urgent tasks that you'd like to get done soon. So now look at those two lists, and this next brief exercise is weighing them. So you're going to think about these two lists as kind of two ends of a balance, the seesaw. Give them both numbers, so adding up to 100. So you might say 70, 30, or 90, 10, or maybe just 55, 45. But write a number in the lower right, write a number in the lower left for what is currently, what represents how heavy this list is, this section is versus the other. So what is pulling you more than the other, and how much is it pulling you versus the other? So just take about 30 seconds to think about that. Write down two numbers that add up to 100. Okay, so circle those numbers. And now write two new numbers beside those two circled numbers. What do you want it to be? What do you long for it to be in reality? Not currently, but what do you want it to be? Draw a square around those numbers. New numbers. Circle represents reality. Now envision what you want it to be. Draw a square around those numbers, and that's going to help move us into the rest of the time. So we focus on how do we get there. Okay, so now what we're going to do is think about a couple questions, just yourself. How does the urgent keep you from concentrating on the important? So how does the urgent keep you from the important things in your life? That's question one. And then what might it look like to concentrate your time and effort on the important but not urgent, over the urgent but not important? And I should have said that at the beginning, but that's kind of the idea from Eisenhower and from Covey. Really, you want to be in section 2, where that list is. Things that are not always clamoring for attention, but are important. So again, two questions. How does the urgent keep you from concentrating on that? What might it look like to concentrate your time on those important but non-urgent things? Take a couple minutes, think about it, jot some notes down, and then Matt will come up and we'll hear a few responses, and he'll lead us through the end of the time.
Can you repeat the questions one more time?
Yes, absolutely. How does the urgent keep you from concentrating on the important in your life? And then what might it look like to concentrate your time and effort on the important and not urgent? So what's keeping you, and then also envision it. What would it look like to be able to concentrate on the important?
actually do it. So that's some of what this is trying to invite us to just call what it is. Call it what it is. Call what is. That's not how you say it, but that's what I mean. And so here's what we're going to try and do. We're going to try and take this list of the important, right, the things that really matter, but that don't seem to manifest themselves over time, especially in the near future, as you look at the next year or 2 years, and say, how do we take some steps forward intentionally to be able to move more deeply, more intentionally into our calling? So we're going to move into this next exercise here, and go to page 54 in your manual. This is called the 90-day goal funnel. So we spent all this time and energy thinking through, okay, so if the Lord has put this particular sense of what it looks like for me to move into the world, and we're working on clarifying that, now the question is, what's going to be my first intentional step to see that become more true in the areas that are important to me, that the Lord is laying on my heart, that matter most significantly? So the exercise is simple. Like any funnel, you're going to take a few minutes, and we're going to try and decide, okay, we're going to articulate what are 6 potential goals that could manifest themselves over the course of that. What are 6 goals that could be where you would focus your energy over the course of the next 90 days, okay? What are 6 potential goals that you could say, if I was going to focus and say, I'm going to make something significant happen that's important, but doesn't feel super urgent right now, and I'm going to see it to completion in 90 days, what might that look like? So it can't be something that's like, cool, I'm going to buy a toothbrush. Like, you can do that on your way home, right? That's not a 90-day sized goal, right? But if it's like, hey, I want to outline a new curriculum that I'm going to teach my kids in homeschooling. Well, that might be a 90-day goal, right? That's like sizable enough, but it's not like your life, right? It's not going to be 2 years. So what I want you to do is try to think through your life right now. Look at some of the important things you wrote down on that left quadrant, and just be like, okay, what would be a goal? What could a goal look like, or 6 particular goals in the variety of quadrants? Now, that could be a physical goal. It could be a relational goal. It could be a work goal. It could be a rest play goal, okay? So think in the different quadrants of your life, your personal life, your spiritual life. Think in those kind of quadrants and see if there's a way you can articulate, here's something that's important to me that right now is not moving forward, and it's been on my mind, and it comes up in the conversations with my friends or with my spouse, but it just keeps getting kicked down the road. That's what we're trying to get to, and see how we can plan for the next 90 days in a way that allows new momentum forward. So let's look at a couple of the examples, okay? So I'm going to give you 7 minutes to basically come up with 6 particular goals. But let's look at the examples on page 55. Ivy, do you want to just read through these examples from Dave?
Sure. Spend extra time with Frankie. Plan out rest-work schedule for the next 2 years. That'd be nice. Grace Adult Team transition with new role definitions. Increase ministry momentum on Grace Adult Team. Complete 6 modules of EFCA disciple making process. And plan the family vacation calendar for the next 2 years.
Okay, so see, there's kind of, you have overarching type goals, like how do I get to where I want to be? Okay, next page. Corinne, do you want to read the next example on here? Lori? Page 56.
Get my 12-month calendar planned out, meet neighbors in 3 houses in front of us, 3 houses on each side of us, and 3 houses in back of us. Take time each week for myself to help each child learn one new thing. Restart my blog, finish first draft of new book, throw a block party, have 0 emails in my inbox.
Okay. So do you see do you understand the scope? You understand the scope of what we're talking about? Like imagine if you're going to say because the goal we're heading here is we're going to say, in light of what we're hearing from the Lord, in light of what we're sensing it might look like to take steps forward with my calling, with particularity with what the Lord would say, what's the one goal I'm going to pursue for the next 90 days, okay? So it needs to be sizable enough to be able to fit that one goal place. But right now we're just trying to kind of brain dump what is important and what's in a particular specific way. And you want to write it in goal format, okay? Not like work out more. It's not a goal, like, okay? It'd be like more specificity to that. We'll get to the particular ways in which we articulate that. So, but try to go with just categories. What might it look like? You got 7 minutes. Do your best. Your goal is to come up with 6 of them. Ready, go.
And do these need to directly correlate with our words, or just like?
I mean, how about this? Why don't you do them as in? No. Do them in light of. Okay.
Like working out once a week doesn't connect with my goals, but it's something.
Not.
You know what I'm
Well, it depends, right? It depends on like
Right.
if you're supposed to be bringing joy to people, but your life is like overwhelming and completely stressed, and you actually are not healthy. Well, then probably it does correlate, right? So that's where you're putting the reality together of, if yeah. There's some helpful questions at the bottom there, by the way, if you get a little stuck. At the bottom, some of those questions might help you think. Don't worry about narrowing down, just put stuff down. stuck, think categories: physical, spiritual, emotional, relational, play, rest, work, family. All right. So you should at this point have roughly 6 potential goals that are there. What you're going to do now is you're going to try and hone in on one of those categories or things that you brought up and actually clarify them into a goal. I'm going to give you 5 minutes for that. And what I'm going to do is just first of all begin by giving you a second to just be like, all right, Lord, if I was going to invest intentional, put aside energy, time, focus in one particular area towards one particular goal in the next 90 days, what would that look like? And to be able to hear from him. But one of the clarities around goal setting in general, which again can be just mechanical, but I think it's actually a deeply spiritual exercise to say, I'm actually going to steward the reality of what God's placed in my heart, who I am, the time I have to invest. This is kind of the classic way of thinking about how to create a very particular kind of goal. So every goal that you're going to create that's going to be anywhere around the 90-day kind of window should be a SMART goal. And these are just the 5 measures of the SMART goal. That should be specific, not some generalistic goal like I want to be healthier. Like that's not a goal. How do you know that you got there? You have no idea. It should be measurable. What's the measure of whether or not I attained it? You know, is it attainable? Is it something that's complete? I'm going to write 2 books in the next 90 days. Like, no, you're not. It's not going to happen. Is it relevant? Is it relevant to actually what you're trying to do, to who you are? Is it connected to the trajectory of your life, to the call that you have in your life? Is it relevant, right? And lastly, is it time-bound? I have a goal to see something significant happen in an undetermined amount of time, and I'll start tomorrow. Like, it won't happen, right? That's what happens to a lot of goals. So this is how you create goals that actually move forward. This is how you win battles so that you can end up putting one battle next to the next battle, next to the next battle, and next thing you have momentum towards a tangible change in the way in which you're moving towards and in your life. So let me give you just a quick example here before y'all jump in. So when I did this for the first time, there was a lot going on. This is 2018. We had we're just about to move into the building. Amy had just died and all that had just gone on. So there was a lot at play in my own personal life and our work life. And so I put up, here's like 6 general goals. This is a little time capsule, but 6 general goals that kind of came up here. One is start each week with a planning goals and scheduling somehow. I come up with a 5 to 10 year vision, rough draft complete for RCC through all leadership environments. Start a Younique pilot group at RCC. Take one planning focused retreat with Becky. Secure a coach. Develop a learning community that I can meet with regularly and investigate potential future things. So those are some of the things that I threw out there as general as be some of my 6. But one of them that I wrote down ended up being the 1 year, the 90-day goal. And it was what I wrote down initially was show affection and initiate intimacy with Becky. She and I, we were running 1,000 miles and we were like drifting. It was like, okay, we're not connecting. So that ended up being the one thing that I focused on for the next 90 days, which is I'm a work guy. Like, so this is not where I naturally go to. And the guy that was coaching me said, hey, listen to the Lord. He might be inviting you into a relational goal. And I was like, no, I got stuff to do. You know, like let's come up with a 5-year vision. Like, yeah, let's do that for 90 days. And spent some time praying. And this is what the Lord laid on my heart. So this is for April 1. So by April 1, time bound. By April 1, I will regularly, there will be renewed affection for Becky in ways that she tangibly notices. So specific, how do I know? Measurable, that she specifically notices, comments on, and that we can savor together. So that was the goal. So it was broad. It was in over 90 days. Like they're tangible. So then I had specific ways, right? Like a weekly gift, a monthly adventure, and a getaway. So like particular ways where it's like, we're going to focus here for 90 days. Now that doesn't mean, right, marriage guys, right? It's not goals out, hey, for 90 days, let's do this right, and then we can get back to work. That's not what I was trying to do. But the point was, for the next 90 days, this needed to take up way more energy, and it's important. I lay my head down at night, and I'm like, we're not connecting as much as we should. But it wasn't urgent, right? You all know this, right? You live this. So that became the 90-day focus. And what was awesome, and this is testimonial, is like when you're looking at this, because there's a methodology with Younique where you look at this every single week, you start tracking, am I doing the things I said I was going to do? And it was about 6 weeks or 8 weeks in or whatever that Becky just looked at me and she goes like, I feel like there's a way in which somehow, and I didn't tell her, by the way, I was doing this, so it's not like, hey, guess what? But the big way I was like, I'm measuring this is whether or not she comments on it. Does she see it? Does she say it? Now, do I try it? And it happened like 2 or 3 different times in a row, and I got to get back on my call with the guys that I was doing this with. I was like, hey, like it's happening. Like we're just savoring that reality. So all I have to say is, like everybody, I have to work on the relationships. And that was a 90-day goal, and it really, really mattered. So cool. Like we're in a different time right now. This isn't my main goal right now. Like we're good. We're connecting. So we're just in a different time. So my invitation to you is take a second to listen to the Lord. Again, I say second. You know what I mean? Listen as you think, and then see if you can articulate one of these things as a singular goal for the next 90 days. So you got 5 minutes to listen for a minute, and then to just say, okay, what might that look like? And try and articulate it in this way. So 90 days from now would be what? Who does time math? What is today? What's that? Did you say Valentine's Day? That's, you know what? You're right, February 14th. So let's just go with that. By February 14th, that's the beginning of your sentence. By February 14th. So, all right, 5 minutes. Here we go. have 2 people interested in sharing the 90-day goal? Michelle, go.
By February 14th, the kids' bedtime routine will cut out the tablet to be replaced by prayers, reading, and/or connection without fussing, fighting, or electronics.
All right. Okay. Very specific. That's great.
And like, and that's just me doing it all. So like, there's gonna be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Another one?
Sure.
Yeah, go, Ivy.
So by February 14th, I will have planned and started a spiritual development rhythm that actually includes daily personal Bible study, which I'm not really doing right now, reflection prayer, and like spiritual development reading, like in a weekly, daily rhythm. And I'll have others to actually hold me accountable to whether
Cool.
I'm doing it or not.
That's great. That's great. One of the things that we tend to want to move towards when we're doing goals is we're usually wanting to go towards establishing a new rhythm in our lives. That's a very natural thing because we know that rhythms will yield some form of dynamic or result. Typically, one of the best ways to, if you're going to put a rhythm goal like you just did, it's to actually set something very particular and specific. And so that would mean, like, I want to have read this particular book, or I want to have read the New Testament, or something of that nature. If it's like an exercise goal, it's like a certain, like, you want to hit something that's more measurable, not like I worked out, regularly. Like, you want to try and hit something very particular. So just as you think about what your goals end up really looking like, that's one of the most important. It's actually where most people fail in goal setting, is we don't get specific about it and we don't get measurable, and so we don't really know if we did it or not. And if we don't have anybody to care, you don't end up moving forward. So we're right at time, and so I want to just close with a couple quick things. First, by just saying thank you for jumping into a process that you probably were blind to a degree, not sure how it would unfold. But the premise and the goal of what we've sought to try and do here is to kind of, for lack of a better term, kind of whet your appetite to the idea that God has very tangible, real purposes in your life. I was talking to my kids about unique primer versus unique proper, and I was like, this is like kind of like a heavy hors d'oeuvre, It's like that thing you get like at a wedding that they served you at 3 o'clock because they're not going to feed you, but like you're not going away hungry, but you're like kind of like, I still need to on the way home pick up a burger, that kind of thing. So this is supposed to kind of, in a tangible way, kind of like get you a step forward, potentially to make you uncomfortable with the reality, and I hope this hasn't been too much the case, but maybe a little bit, of like, yeah, I'm not as tight on this as I probably want to be, as maybe I should be, about what it looks like to have tangible clarity, and then a process by which I move forward. I was just telling them in the back, the exercise we just did is like kind of towards the end. It's a small exercise that we do towards the end of Younique Proper, and you have a ton of things to help you get to that spot. So this is kind of almost unfair, and it's built that way to try and help you say, yeah, it's really hard to live life on purpose, right? Like, and if you don't have a clear sense of why, you're just going to find yourself next year going like, I really want to live more intentionally. I really want to live more in a trajectory, and I think it's that way, or maybe it's that way. And some of what this process is kind of designed to do is to whet your appetite, to give you a sense of like, okay, I know it's not that way. I think it's in this general direction. That's some of what this is designed to try and do. So I just want to say, if you're a little bit frustrated that it's not crystal clear, like, there's no stinking way. Like, this can't do that. It's not magic, It's kind of, 6 weeks. It's kind of spread out to help you just begin to think. So to that end, there's kind of 2 different avenues. If you're in 2 places, you're either like, cool, this was nice and helpful. It's helpful for me to think about what this could look like, and like, I'm just going to move on from here, and I have a better sense of what God has made me for and who He's called me to be. That's great. If you're kind of in that place where you're like, okay, this feels like I took a step into something and I realized there's an entire other like world out there to be thinking about. Well, then one of the things we're going to do in January and February is do kind of the 2-weekend intensive, they're called the Intensive Accelerator, of Younique Proper. And it's just that. It's an accelerator and it's intense. It's like this on steroids, for lack of a better term, but with like tons more tools, way more engagement, like sharing dynamics. I mean, it moves quick. We do a lot of live coaching. And it's to really get you to a place of having a clear sense of not just the what, which you're kind of already taken some really great steps towards it, but the why, like actually working out your core values in your life, kind of the core sense of your own identity through coaching process and whole ton of tools that we would use in that. Secondly, is then to come up with a way in which you work out a life plan. Like, how do you know how you're going to focus your energy and your time? Like, I'm just throwing out categories. Maybe it's your rest. Maybe it's your physical stuff. Like, how do you know? What are the roles that God has for you in your life? Like, what are they all? Because there's a whole bunch of, not just mom, but like, what are the sub roles to all those pieces? And how do you know how to invest your energies, your resources, your capital, your emotional, spiritual capital? So there's a whole kind of litany of things that are involved in trying to take it not just to this level, but to a fundamentally deeper, truer, more connected level. And of course, we walked the staff team through this, and a couple of the elders, a variety of others have walked through it. If that's something you're interested in, like, just chew on it, pray about it. The other option, the other tool is the book. Will Mancini did a great job just writing the course in a book. So if you're somebody who's like wildly disciplined and can like actually do something with nobody helping you and nobody coaching you along and without really many tools, this is a great way to go. And it's actually a really well-written book. So this is another great option for you if you're kind of like, I would say this is like your intermediate step, if you will. So if you're interested in what that could look like, or you have questions about it, like let me know. This is something that I think is pivotal. I think it's pivotal in the life of every believer. I think if everyone had a crystal clear sense of who they are, what they should be saying yes to, what they should be saying no to, and why, like I think it could change the face of the church in many, many ways, let alone the kingdom and how it manifests in every context in which is represented here and beyond. So that's like where I'm like, I think this really, really matters. And if that's been like something that is intriguing, let me know. We'd love to talk more about it. We'll be doing the weekend. It'll be here. So that sounds like a pitch. It's not a pitch. It's an invitation. And it's also saying thank you, like, for taking a step towards what matters significantly to the Lord and how he made you. Like, it really, really matters. And it's been a delight to be able to hear the nuances and the subtle beauties that have emerged out of who you are and the power of what can be in the future. So thank you. I'm going to let you guys go because we're already over time. Can I just read you something real quick? This is to kind of tie back. I was thinking about this coming out of the... This is what in the book of Acts, Paul says about David in his sermon. He says, for David, after he had served the purpose of God in his own generation, fell asleep and was laid with his fathers and saw corruption. Just that picture of like, after he had served the purposes of God in his own generation. I think the invitation is, hey, let us be the kind of people who serve the purposes of God in our generation and then be laid to rest in a way that allows the glory of God to be continually manifested into the future. So anyway, thanks so much. Let me pray and just bless you, Father. I delight in the fact that you have made every single person here uniquely purposed for exactly this time, for exactly the context in which you've placed them, and for your glory and our deep satisfaction. And I just want to pray, Lord, would you bless these men and women, their families, their relationships, their work, the work of their hands, the dreams of their hearts, the longings that they have had for a long time. I pray, Lord, that you would continue to reveal to them how the way you shaped them up to this point is part of what's directing them into what you're taking them into in the future. And I pray that you would smooth those paths, that they would make those paths clear, and that you'd make them inviting through your Spirit. So we love you. Your kingdom is at hand, and we want to be a part of it. And so we pray all these things in the name of Christ and for his glory. Amen. Thanks, guys. It's great to be with you. Y'all have a good evening. We'll see you soon.